Hi and welcome back. For this video we're going to fill in a scene for Pop Goes the Waterbed. We're going to actually work on Chapter 1, Scene 1. If you've watched my last video on yWriter6 versus Scrivener, there's a chance you may have already seen this scene. As of now I haven't written it yet, so I want to go ahead and do that here. If you have seen it, then that may be putting you back into some kind of time loop. Sorry about that. Hope you get out of it, but you may already see what's coming. But yeah, if you haven't watched it or if you haven't read the whole scene, this would be a good time to see it fleshed out. So if you're interested in that, let's have fun with this. So what we first want to do is we want to go ahead and we have our scene highlighted that we want. So we're going to go into the scene section and then we're going to edit selected scene. So we're going to open up what we've already written. Now, in the last video, I got as far as the hook sentence. We'll probably want to figure out if that's even what we want at some point. But we're not in that version of the draft yet. So for now, we're going to be happy with it. The other thing I want to emphasize too is if we're doing what we call the pants method, which is when you write by the seat of your pants, according to... I hate that term, by the way. I've always hated that term for the first time I heard it. But I'm going to stick with the lingo and call it that anyway, because that's what most writers refer to as. But basically it's just making things up as you go. That's how I normally would write. I do the Stephen King method to approach a scene not knowing how it's going to end. But I do want to try to stop doing it that way because I am finding that it's easy to write in a corner. And there's even novels I have where I know what I want out of it and I even know how it's going to end. For some reason I still find myself getting into a dead end. That's the problem I have with a book I started a few years ago. It started off a very short story, and it was one of the ones I wanted to expand into a novel. It's called Teenage American Dream. I had gotten about almost 3/4 of the way in, but I kept stumbling because I knew that the plot point I needed for the final point, I just wasn't getting myself there. And then I kept thinking, well, I don't know how I'm even going to do the whole fourth act, or the whole third act, rather, the whole fourth part of the book, because it's just nothing was really coming together the way I had hoped. And that's the prime example of what I wish I had an actual concrete plan before I went in. But there's, we learn new things every time we start a new project. So I want to try the outline style to see if it's something I can adapt. So that's what we're doing with Pop Goes the Waterbed. Now, again, I just want to emphasize this is not necessarily going to become anything. I really only started this yesterday when I downloaded the yWriter program. But the reason I may turn it into something is because I actually kind of like where it's going so far based on the first chapter. Now, will that momentum hold up? I don't know. And so I'm going to dabble in this a little bit as I go. But I do think that it should be interesting if I do turn something out of it. But anyway, my goal for this video is to flesh out that first scene as if this is a finished outline. So that's what we're going to do. You saw the hook already in the last video, so let's continue on. So our scenario, actually let's go back and double check our details. We want to see what we're trying to do. Alright, so we know Bob is the viewpoint character and he's the only one in it, according to this outline. And then the location is going to be in his house. We're actually in his bedroom. I don't think we're going to leave the bedroom in this scene. And the waterbed's the only really contender. So the note I had said is the scene should be short and sweet, probably best open with Bob gasping for air. Sets up the immediate question, what happened to the bed? Sets up the larger question, is it actually or deliberately popped? Sets up the story question, is it a wake-up call to a better life or attempted murder? So these three things, ideally, I want to try to hit. Now, let's be honest, we're doing the first draft. It's unlikely I'm going to get all three in this draft. This is something I might fine-tune down the road. So really the only thing we're going to be truly focused on is the first one, what happened to the bed. Because we want to make sure that we see that there's a problem there. We should probably not finish the scene until we at least have some kind of natural tendency to ask this question, is it accidentally or deliberately popped? But as far as the story question goes, I mean, that's all. That's going to be our end goal. Is it a wake-up call to a better life or attempted murder? But I don't think we're going to know that in this scene. I think that's going to take the next two scenes to fulfill. So we don't really need to answer this question yet. In fact, we may not even answer it until the end of the story. Because honestly, the true story question shouldn't be answered until the end. So probably don't want to spend too much time questioning whether or not this is fully brought up yet. Okay. Alright, and then what's the goal for this? Getting out of the bed, So it's going to really be straightforward, not a lot here. Okay. And there's the main plot. So we're going to go into the content. All right, so when Bob awoke Friday morning, he did not expect to have to swim out of bed. So he's got to get out of the bed. All right, so we're going to start with a little bit of alliteration. Usually a no-no in writing, but we're going to be writing this, so who cares? All right, so beyond blankets and bed sheets. And just, I actually wrote this line a few minutes ago before I started this video, but I remembered that we hadn't seen it yet, so I deleted it. So just need a little bit of a disclaimer there. Beyond bed sheets and blankets, Bob. Should we battle? Bob battled. This is already going to make people mad. All right, we're not going to do that much alliteration. We'll start off with alliteration, but we're not going to do the whole sentence with alliteration because that would be irritating. All right, let's see. No, I'm sorry, it's not beyond. Derp. Between. That was the original phrase. Okay, so between blankets and bed sheets. Alright, Bob found himself. Let's see, not mired. I don't like to worry about vocabulary a whole lot in the beginning. I just want to get to the end of the scene, and that's really my goal today. But mired, I don't think it's the right term. We already said swimming. I don't want to repeat it. Bob awoke Friday morning. He did not expect to have to swim out of bed. Between blankets and bed sheets. Actually, we don't even need Bob. We already said Bob. Let's do he. He found himself. How about gasping for air? That's really what the scene's about. Now I feel like that needs something in between there. Bob awoke Friday morning. You don't expect to have to swim out of bed. Yet, as his bladder-influenced dreams morphed into a wet reality, he realized he was in big trouble. Okay, so according to Avengers Infinity War, we all have this type of dream. I hope you understand what that means. I don't want to explain it, because if I have to explain it, then I didn't write it very well. But it's something I get a lot. I'm sure you do too. If you're reading this, hopefully you'll identify with it. So what I like about this line is it's setting up the question: did he wet himself? You know, who's Bob? Is he a 10-year-old, or is he a, is he a guy who drank too much? We don't know yet. Between blank, he found himself gasping for air. Alright, so what do we want to do next? One thing you probably do want to do is just save it every so often. I'm not sure if yWriter has an autosave feature like Scrivener does. It might, but I haven't verified that as of this recording. So just get in the habit of every so often just going into projects and hitting save. Doesn't hurt. I mean, it's extra backup, but anyway. So let's see here. So what do we want to do? So we still need to get him out of the bed, because if he's gasping for air, that's not good. Alright. He clawed for the top of the blanket while twisting amid his tangled top sheet. Is that dang alliteration again? Clawed for the top of the blanket while twisting. How about for the edge instead of the top? Hoping to find that same daylight, he could see bleeding through the bleeding through. Bleeding through his covers. I don't know. I don't know if I want to top that with his anything. Let me just stop it through. Okay, again, that's a later draft question. Alright, so when Bob awoke Friday morning, he did not expect to have to swim out of bed, yet as his bladder-influenced dreams morphed into a reality, he realized he was in big trouble. Between blankets and bed sheets, he found himself gasping for air. He clawed for the edge of the blanket while twisting amid his tangled top sheet, hoping to find that same daylight he could see bleeding through his covers. Okay, the water was getting higher. And his body was sinking faster. This was no dream, and he had not wet himself. His waterbed had sprung. Actually, do we want to know that yet? We don't want to know any of that yet. Actually, this is probably... Alright, let's finish this line, and I think we're making a paragraph. His waterbed had sprung a serious leak. Okay. Actually, this can be the new paragraph here. How about this? He was certain of that much. Or, let's see. He didn't understand what was going on, but he was certain of that much. The water's getting higher in his body. So maybe I want to move this. Let's see. How about this? He may not have understood what was going on, but he was certain of that much. Okay. He also knew that much. Alright, let's save it, try it on. Save project. When Bob awoke Friday morning, he did not expect to have to swim out of bed. Yet, as his bladder-influenced dreams morphed into a wet reality, he realized he was in big trouble. Between blankets and bed sheets, he found himself gasping for air. He clawed for the edge of the blanket while twisting amid his tangled top sheet, hoping to find that same daylight he could see bleeding through his covers. The water was getting higher and his body was sinking faster. This was no dream, and he had not wet himself. He may not have understood what was going on, but he was certain of that much. I think I'm going to dump that. His waterbed has sprung on a serious leak. He also knew that much. I think, yeah, I don't know about that. We'll save that for another draft. I'm not worried about it right now. Let's just move on. You got to leave something that's worth the cutting room floor. So that'll be our cutting room floor goal. Alright, what do I want to do next? So he's had to get out of bed. So he's starting to become aware that there's a problem. He shouldn't be swimming out of bed. But now we're at the end of the paragraph. We sort of know everything we need to know. It's not that he wet himself. He's actually in a waterbed that is losing its... Well, it's not losing its water. It's just filling in the bed canvas. Oh, I wonder if it's leaking. So I don't know if his bed's that old. It's probably going through the crack. That might be... Ooh, that's a conflict. We need to keep it from getting on the floor, don't we? All right, hold on. We're going to reset a little bit here. The water's getting higher in the bodies. I want to say, okay. How about this? So when we don't need that life or death conflict. Like, once we know what's going on, this doesn't need to be a life and death conflict anymore. All right, when he found the edge of his blanket, he flung it to the side and Rolled. Did he roll or did he sit up? And let's see, and fought the rolling surface. I was going to say fought the tie, but that's a little too crazy. Flunked his side and fought the rolling surface to get himself into a sitting position. His pillows were soaked cotton balls mashed together. Not really floating, are they? And drifting toward his wife's side of the bed. His wife, where was she? There were, let's see, many twists, knots and twists in the sheets, and any one of them could have been a sleeping woman. I forget how tall or how. Let's actually, we're gonna, let's see, we'll do the TK. If you don't know what TK is, that means to come. When you do a global search, it'll find where you put a place marker. So we're gonna do TK. Elaine's description. I actually remember what it is, but I'm doing this to make a point. I want to show you guys what I would do when I try to figure that out. There were many knots and twists in the sheets, and any one of them could have been a sleeping woman. Yet nothing else in the bed moved but Bob and the blanket. And everything, or see, not everything, and anything that was light enough to float. He pressed against the closest lump he could reach and found it as soft as, I don't want to say blanket twice, as soft as a quilt. Yeah. Actually, soft as a body pillow. That would be the right size. Soft as a body pillow. It moved only to his touch and did not roll over and slap him. Elaine must have gotten out of the bed by now. Okay, do a quick save. Hmm. I think actually we'll name her here, Elaine. Where was she? Actually, you know what I'm thinking too? We need to probably know his name early. So when Bob, we'll give him the whole name. His name is Edgerson. Or we'll just say Bob Ernie Edgerson. Why not? We may get rid of the middle name eventually because I don't think he's a serial killer. I don't think. Again, we're just fleshing the scene out for the video. I wouldn't normally do this until the outline's finished, if I were to do this the correct way, just to emphasize. Pressed against the closest lump he could reach, and found it as soft as a body pillow, moved only to his touch. And roll over and slap him. Elaine must have gotten out of bed by now. He was determined to join her wherever she may have been. We don't know where she is. She could be in the lion's cage for all we know. I think he'd want to join her there. She's not. I don't think we're not going to be unrealistic here. I'm not going to make this too crazy. It should be, hyper realistic, which is my favorite type of realism. Alright, there are many knots and twists and sheets, and any one of them could have been a sleeping woman, yet nothing else in the bed. No, but Bob in the blanket. Anything. Now, the other thing I want to emphasize too, you'll see that I'm actually going back and rereading a lot of stuff. I probably wouldn't do this if I weren't recording the video. I am taking just some liberties and explaining things as I go. I would normally move through this a little quicker than I am and be a little less precise. I'm doing this for the video, really. So if you are trying to take up writing, or if you want to get better at writing, I would just suggest just get to the end and then worry about all the, fiddle about the other stuff later. One of my mottos that I tell the students at the school I work is don't do what I do. So I want to probably emphasize that here as well. Everything that you see, you probably want to not make a habit of it. Just get to the end and then fix it. Anyway, sidebar. Don't take sidebars in your writing either. Something else you shouldn't do that I do. Alright, Elaine must have gotten out of the bed by now. He was determined to join her wherever she may have been. Alright. When Bob finally pulled himself out of the, we'll just say for now, bed-made pool. Or how about we'll just say that out of the pool. Let's just cut right to it, out of the pool. That he once called a waterbed. Let's do that. She had once. Bob finally pulled himself out of the pool that he had once called a waterbed. Let's see, didn't flip. That's unrealistic. When you're coming up with verbs for your story, trying to be unrealistic. I almost said he flipped out of bed, but did he really flip out of bed? No. What did he actually do? He set his leg. Let's see. Bob finally pulled himself out of the pool. He once called a waterbed. He set his foot to the floor and took another deep breath. We're going to do this for the symbolism. He doesn't actually need to take the deep breath. That's when his bare foot stepped into a puddle. Alright, we'll do... Alright, can I do italics with Control I? I can, yes, okay. Oh, no! So unclip I did Control I for those who are wondering. You can do that in any word processor, not just this, but you can do it. I think you can do it in Scrivener. You can definitely do it in Microsoft Word. It's Control any of these letters here will actually give you the type of mark that you would have here. I'm not sure if Control S does strike through, but these three for sure. Anyway, oh no, Bob thought. In the old days, I used to say thought Bob or said Bob. I've been trying to go back into the more active voice. So I've been putting subjects before verbs in these tags. It's a good habit, I think. It doesn't really matter what you do when you tag it, but it's simpler the better. I prefer being able to read more clearly. And I think that gives me a more stronger thought. Okay, oh no, Bob thought. Okay, let's see. The bed frame must have also sprung a leak, given that the bed was nearly 50 years old. He would, let's see, he was not surprised at the likelihood, but he was never the less upset by this. I don't think he has time to think about that. So we want to try to keep this in the moment. You got to figure he's still, his adrenaline's pumping. He just woke up, nearly drowning, and his heart's probably racing. We didn't mention it, but we can probably imagine that. If his foot hits the floor, is he going to say, "Oh, that's weird," when he feels the puddle at his foot, or is he going to freak out and think, "Oh no, my stuff"? Now, we haven't fully explored what the bedroom is, and we're not necessarily going to do that right now, because we want to put some limits on how much we share with the reader. But it does beg the question, what does he have on his floor or in his room that needs to be watched out for? So I don't want to spend a whole lot of time developing that yet, so we'll do another TK here. TK, some important stuff is on the floor. Okay, and that's good enough. We'll flesh that out later. So, oh no, Bob thought the bed frame must have also sprung a leak, given that the bed was nearly 50 years old, and he was not surprised at the likelihood. Okay, fortunately, his house was not so, let's see, fortunately his house was sensible enough in its construction to keep the towel closet just outside his bedroom door. Fortunately, his house is sensible enough in its construction to keep the towel closet just so he dashed for it and grabbed as many towels as he could hold in his wet arms. Okay, remember he's still wet. Without taking another step back into the bedroom, he merely twisted in his shoulder and tossed the lot of his towels at the puddle forming at his bedside. This would merely bandage the problem, though there was a lot of water to catch. Let's see, there was a lot of water in the king-sized bed frame, still oozing out of the sides, out of the corners. He would need to plug those instead. Let's see. He didn't have and he was certain he didn't have the right tools for that job. This is where it might border on an absurd, but we're going to do this anyway because we can evaluate how likely this would have happened later. But what we have right now is we have an emergency situation. The bed's leaking all over the floor. He's got no way of controlling that. He doesn't want his room flooded. So he's got to do what he can think of off the cuff. If we put ourselves in his situation, we probably wouldn't have a lot of options either that make a lot of sense unless we have some kind of experience in maintaining bed frames or thing like that. So we wouldn't necessarily, imagine that he would seal the bed frame with like glue or, figure it's still getting wet. The smart thing he would do would be to vacuum out the water. But again, he's still in a fog. He's still thinking clearly. So we'll probably have him get a vacuum cleaner later. Right now, he's just worried about the edges of the bed. So we're going to have him do this. Okay, you would need to plug this without hesitating or without hesitation. Bob did the only thing that came to mind. Let's see. Bob addressed the problem. Ugh. That hasn't Bob. Let's see, he would have to improvise. Let's say that. He would have to improvise without hesitation. Bob did the first thing that came to mind. He ran straight out of his house and next door to the neighbor. This is where we might want to update our outline to show that we have a neighbor. He ran straight out of his house next door to the neighbors. And banged on the front door when, let's see, I'm just going to call her Julie, but I got a Julie in the Cannibal City series, so I don't want the, screw it, it's Julie. Julie, okay. Let's see, when Julie answered, we'll figure her out later. When Julie answered, she reeled back in horror. Bob, she said. Where are your pants? Uh-oh. Bob realized Bob had no idea what, or see, yeah, no idea what she was talking about. Surely he was wearing his, okay, dash, nope, she was right. He was just in his underwear, soaking wet on her front lawn at 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning. He must have lost his shorts in the middle of the night. Let's see. That didn't matter. He didn't have time to worry about smaller things, smaller problems like that. All right, project save. Okay, did that work? Okay. He needed to save his bedroom. Do you have duct tape? Is it duct tape or duct tape? I think it's duct tape. I'll have to fix that later. I've seen it spelled both ways. I think it's duct tape though. Do you have duct tape? He asked her. Her mouth was agape, and her eyes were scanning his thin, hairy body, and that's what I established in the bio, if you had a chance to look at that. Basically, looks like the old 70s car salesman, but he lives in the modern day. He's, you know, late 2010s like us. Her mouth was agape and her eyes were scanning his thin. She seemed to miss his question. Julie, he said again, there's no time for stalling. I need duct tape. Do you have any? She raised her hands and backed into the darkness of her living room. Bob tapped his foot as he watched her move toward the light in her kitchen. When she came back, she, let's see, do I want to get detailed or do I want to just, now let's just run through. When she tossed the roll of tape at him and slammed the door shut between them. Okay. He'd have to explain himself later. Okay, back in the bedroom, he tore off strips of tape with his teeth and wiped away or hopelessly. How about struggled? It struggled. We'll try to avoid adverbs if we can. Struggled to. Okay, struggled to wipe away the wet areas as more water poured through cracks. His last dry towel was getting wetter by the moment. And the little bit he could dry would just, let's see, soon he would have no way of finishing the job. He did his best to seal the cracks. The tape as fast as he could wipe the wetness away. I think that paragraph went a little off brand. We'll fix that again in the rewrite. I'm not going to just keep on going here. The duct tape method was mildly effective, but still not as effective as he would have liked. Water, let's see, the flow of water to his floor slowed, but it did not completely stop as each each piece of tape bubbled under the pressure of escaping water. See, it's not really escaping now, but water trying to escape. It would be only a matter of seconds or minutes if he were lucky. Before the tape would burst and all of his efforts would go down the drain. Now, you shouldn't use cliches, but I'm using this one because it's symbolic of what's happening here. So we'll just keep it. Okay, this time, let's see, hold on. Now, now that he had bought himself just a little bit of time, he found some pants in his closet and a shirt on the rack, and donned them both. Let's see. Donned them both and ran back to Julie's house to borrow a vacuum cleaner. Okay. She didn't answer the door. Julie, he yelled, "I've got on pants now." Oh, what just happened? Got on pants now. What did I just have here? I think, can I undo whatever I just did? Okay, I don't know what I just did. I'm going to pause for a minute and figure out what that was. I don't know if I had anything there. Hold on. I'll be back in 2 seconds. Just save. Okay, I checked my back video. This is actually where I said "Pop goes the waterbed." So I'm going to put that back. I'm not sure if this has an undo function or not. I haven't seen one yet. So that might be one disadvantage to using this program. Unless we have... Let's check the help real quick. Keyboard shortcuts. Okay. Well, it doesn't matter. Like I said, this is all experimental. So let's go back to... Okay. So Julie yelled, "I've got pants on now." I could have the cliche of somebody walking by who screams that, but I think we're going to skip that. I think the fact that he's screaming it out loud is funny enough. Julie. Let's see. The front door never opened, but his own front door did. He heard another voice yelling in his ear, "Bob." He heard Elaine screaming, "Julie just called me. What are you doing?" Okay. I need a vacuum. Fast. Elaine shook her head and tucked back into the house. A moment later, Julie came to the door with her phone to her ear Yes, he's still standing there, she said. Let's see. Yes, he's wearing clothing now. Julie pressed a button on her phone and dropped it to her side. You've got issues, Bob, she said. I'm sure you're right, Bob said. I still need a vacuum, one that can soak up water if possible. Did I have him? Oh, you know what I just realized? I never actually showed him dawning the reality that vacuum would work. Duct tape method was mildly effective, but still not as effective as he would have liked. The flow of water was forced slow, but did not completely stop, as each piece of tape bubbled under the pressure of water trying to escape. It would be only a matter of seconds. If you're lucky, before the tape would burst, and all the efforts to go down the drain. He needed a more powerful approach. I think for now we'll just leave it as is. I think we can assume that he figured out the vacuum cleaner in between. I got to go back and kind of think of that one through and see if I need to set anything up. So I think we're about near the end of the scene here. In fact, I think we are at the end of the scene. Let's save. So what we'll do is, since we added Julie as a character, we're going to just do a quick add characters, add new. We're just going to do a quick view. Her name is Julie, full name. Say Julie Rochelle. I like that as a name, Julie Rochelle. I'll just say Julie is Bob's neighbor. We'll fill in details later. So I'm not going to fill in all of her stuff right now since we're on the video, but I'm putting this placeholder in as a reminder that we still need to do something with her now that we've seen her in the scene. So we'll hit OK, and then we'll go into, let's see, we're still in scene 1, so we're going to add Julie Rochelle to the scene. And actually, Elaine has found her way in, so we're going to drop Elaine into the scene. So sometimes that'll happen. When you're outlining, you may not see the whole picture. It isn't until you actually do the writing that you'll find out what's really happening here. So we managed to pull in almost 1,000 words in this scene. That's not too bad. We did this in less than an hour, so it's not, just for thinking out loud, it's not a bad run. I'm not sure yet if this is all going to be one video or if it's going to be split, but hopefully you stuck with it to the end. Just real quick before I finish the video for today, I want to go back to the scene. Can I edit the scene? I want to edit the scene. Oh, is it still open? That's why I can't open it. It's still open. If you can't open something, it might be that it's still open. All right, so now that Julie's in here, it has auto-updated. That's cool. This is all we've got so far. We don't know much about her. I wanted to just quickly go back to Elaine real quick. I have a bio for her. So she's 5'10", with long dark hair. Just in contrast, Bob is 5'8". So Elaine's a little taller, and I don't know about you, but the women in my life seem to like taller men. than shorter ones. I'm sure Elaine probably has something similar. As you read her description, you'll find that she married Bob out of guilt, not out of love. So there you go. And not to say that that's true with everybody. I know there's exceptions to every rule, and sometimes the short guy gets the tall woman, and vice versa. Well, generally vice versa. But I thought that was an interesting little contrast there. I don't know if it's going to pay off yet. This is just, again, description. And sometimes, when you're writing, you're not going to necessarily know what exactly you're working with until you just write it and see. But it helps to have some kind of understanding prior to going into the story, so you can at least figure out how the dynamics will work. So I would think that might possibly be a dynamic, is the size difference, but I don't know. What this does have is very similar to something that I cannot recall at the moment, but essentially Elaine is she's too good for Bob, put it that way. And she knows it, but she's the lifestyle has kind of suppressed her. She can't really exert her full potential. She's one of those women who blog about fashion, and she's lying to her public because she's not fashionable. She's stuck in the 90s and not willingly. Again, it's the fact that between the both of them, they barely have enough to survive on as is. That's why Bob's having to borrow everything from the neighbor. So there's a lot going on with that. But anyway, as we read on, we see that she is certainly an attractive person. So we want her to look attractive when we describe her in the scene. So we want to do that. Now, the interesting about doing such a thing is that attraction is subjective. What's attractive to me may not be attractive to you, and vice versa. So I'm just describing what I find attractive. You may think that she's hideous, and that's fine. So my idea of attractiveness is tall brunette, blue eye. And that's what Elaine will be, because I want her to be someone who is too good for Bob. So there were many knots and choices in the sheet, and any one of them could have been a sleeping woman who who's generally on her side, faced away from him. So we're not going to describe her. After all, we're just going to describe her action toward him, which is she doesn't want to have anything to do with him, even when she sleeps. All right. And then down here, oh no, Bob thought the bed frame must have also sprung a leak. Given that the bed was nearly 50 years old, he was not surprised at the likelihood. Okay, I still don't know what this is going to be, and I'm not going to worry about it now, but anyway. All right, we're going to save and exit. Actually, we're going to save it, and let's look at what we've done. So our goal was get out of leaking bed. We're going to actually refine this a bit. Get out of a leaking bed and stop it from ruining his floor. Okay, so we're going to update that a little bit. Struggles with shifting surface. Doesn't know how to patch the bed. Or fix the problem. Leak or pooling on his floor. We don't need to be clever in this section, but I like to be clever wherever possible, as long as it's not obnoxious. Okay, so the outcome is to successfully. We're not going to escape. We're going to successfully stop the bed from leaking all over the floor. We're going to assume he did that. We're not going to necessarily in the scene with him doing that, because do you really want to read about him vacuuming it's too much. We know what he's trying to accomplish. We can assume he's done it when we get to the next scene, so we don't need to investigate that. Well, really the issue here is we just want to set up the problem that his bed popped. We don't really yet know why, and that's going to be the next scene will be that investigation, which I might do in another video. Depends on how well this one retains viewers. but we'll see. I'm sure at some point this will show up on either Wattpad or my blog at the very least. So I'll put links to all that stuff when it becomes relevant, so you can certainly stay monitored on that if you want to read it for yourself. Anyway, we are still in the plot right now. We don't want to open with a subplot. That's crazy. Exporting, we're not going to export that yet. Okay, time. So I think this is closer to 15 minutes that this all took. So we're going to assume it's been 15. And then the rating, so the relevance. Again, I'm not quite sure how I want to rate this yet, but I think for now we'll say, well, we're going to do a 10 because it's the first scene. I may change it later. The tension, I'd say the tension's a 7. It should be pretty nice high tension in the beginning. Humor, 6. Actually, no, the humor, I think the tension's a 6, and the humor, they're about even. Quality, I'll do that as a 7. I think we can get higher than that. I still got to figure out how I want to actually do this scale system, but I'm pretty okay with that for now. Settings. We want to do anything else here. Oh, I do have undo. Okay, cool. It's inside the window here. All right, that's good to know. All right, I was worried we didn't have an undo. Okay, so this has the split scene. This is cool. This is something that Scrivener also does. If you have like hashtags or the ... which is standard for when you're putting scenes in, this is something that, like, when you put that in, it'll actually open up a new scene. That's useful for management of your scenes, so that's pretty cool. Split scene custom. Alright, we'll just look at the word usage real quick. I want to show at least one of the tools here. So here's all of our words. They're all pretty standard. We don't get into the high vocabulary until we get to the low numbers. So that's a pretty good spread, I think, for a first draft. Not bad. Alright. Oops. So that's scene 1 of Pop Goes the Waterbed. Let's go ahead and save and exit that. There's one thing I want to also go back and show. Let's see. We'll probably actually do that in another video. Okay, yeah, so I think that's good for now. Let me know if you want to see more of this, or if you want to follow the story on Wattpad or my blog, or if you want to have it on your e-reader someday. So basically tell me if you like where this is going, if you like the premise of it. As far as yWriter goes, if you want to check it out, go to SpaceJock software, and I'll put a link in the video. And then I hope you enjoy this. So thanks for watching. Bye.